Welcome back, Sir Optimists. We're excited to share today's video with you focused on implicit bias. This may be a new term, but it's a really important one to understand to make sure that you're working with your DREAM program participants in the most supportive and empowering ways possible. If you haven't yet watched our previous two videos on the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, be sure to check them out in the description below.
To begin, implicit bias is any unconsciously held set of associations about a certain group. Implicit biases can result in the attribution of certain qualities to all individuals from that group, also known as stereotyping.
Implicit biases are the product of learned associations and social conditioning. They often begin at a young age, and most people are unaware that they hold them. Importantly, these biases do not necessarily align with personal identity. It's possible to unconsciously associate positive or negative traits with one's own race, gender, or background. An example, a Black girl in your Dream It Be It program may be followed in a store by a clerk who insists that he's just watching her because he's had issues with teenagers shoplifting after school. But his implicit bias is telling him that Black teens are more likely to shoplift, so he feels he has to watch her more closely. You can also have implicit bias about your own group, either negative or positive. For example, a female hiring manager may notice that a woman has a diaper bag at a job interview and be less likely to hire her because she assumes women can't handle motherhood and a job at the same time.
We all have implicit bias. It is something that our brains do without our conscious thought or action. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to become more aware of it. In order to address implicit bias, the first step is to work on noticing when these thoughts pop up. When you notice a thought about another group coming up in your brain, be aware of it and mentally say to yourself, this is implicit bias. Some next steps that you can take in challenging your implicit bias are to bring attention to times when you notice someone in a group not adhering to a stereotype. Focus on the concrete positives that you see. Make an intention to think positive thoughts when encountering those individuals or other members of stigmatized groups in the future.
Let's take a fairly common stereotype as an example. Women can't drive. Perhaps you heard this often growing up, or your sister is a distracted driver, which just reinforces it. When you notice a car pulled over by a police officer and see that the driver is a woman, the implicit bias in your mind might say, oh, of course it's a woman, we're bad drivers. Notice that thought. Ask yourself, is this really true? Are all women bad drivers? Of course not. Now challenge your implicit bias by actively noticing all the women who drive who are not dangerous or unsafe. Continue to repeat this process over time, and you can reduce your own implicit bias.
Your own identity informs your understanding of the world, and how you were raised impacts how you see others. It is an active process to notice and engage with those thoughts so that we can treat people who are different from us with respect. And this is important since we know that there is great diversity within our DREAM program participants, and we certainly want to treat them with the respect, care, and empathy that they deserve. Not acknowledging or working on our own implicit biases can prevent us from doing that. There are some great ways to learn more about this independently. In the description box, we will be including some implicit bias tests from Harvard University that you can take independently or with your club, and then use as a jumping off point for further discussion. Thanks for watching, and see you in our next video.